What is a chief brand officer, and how did you become the chief brand officer of Gymshark?
Can I veto your question and say something else right at the top?
Yeah, of course.
I want to thank you on behalf of the sick children of Birmingham, because I don't want to just go into the podcast like it's some normal thing. Like, we're sitting here because you were kind enough to donate to the Birmingham Children's Hospital. So thank you, mate.
And Phil, somebody who recommended me to reach out to you.
Yeah.
He also donated as well. So
Did he?
You got double bubble.
Phil, you legend. Thank you, Phil. So yeah, to both of you, before we start waxing lyrical about careers and ambitious minds, I feel like I should do that thank you
I appreciate
on behalf of all the sick kids in Birmingham. What is a chief brand officer? I really should know that, shouldn't I? I think it's very close to a CMO, but I think I can only talk from my experience, to be honest with you. I'm not a good paid spend ROAS marketeer. Like, we have a chief digital officer, Carla, here at Gymshark. She is far better at that than I will ever be. She's forgotten more than I will ever know, probably. The bit that I like to say that my job is designing the emotional connection that people have to the word Gymshark, right? So all the different touch points across the brand, how it looks, feels, sounds, smells, the emotion that it evokes when you hear that word, that's what I think me and my team do. And the way we do that is in such disparate ways, right? So, for example, in so many e-com businesses, and we do get bucketed in with e-com businesses a lot because that's where we came up, right? Even though we're like omnichannel now. See, like, customer service as an afterthought, like, it's, oh, there's a problem with orders, that's operational. No, that's right up front of the customer journey for us. So Joe, customer experience director, reports straight to me. Sponsorship, influencers, organic social, creative, all that stuff that is the look, sound, smell, feel, touch, like even in the design of our stores and stuff like that, that all falls under part of my remit. We have some really exciting new IRL projects, as we call them, which I can't announce yet, but they are signed off, so you'll see them soon. That all was like part of my team, and like I said, designing the emotion that it evokes when you hear that word. That's what I think I and the team do. If you sum it all up into one.
I actually listened to a podcast on the way up here, and it was a Simon Sinek podcast, and he said that people who are financially invested want to see a return, but people who are emotionally invested want to contribute and like build community.
That's so true with Gymshark. You wouldn't believe. We did this thing the other day. So we just launched a product. Relaunched a product after 5 years, which went absolutely nuts on social. Melted our website, all sorts. When the drum asked me, "How did you do that?" It was, I listened to what the customers wanted. They were in the comments saying, "Please, can you do this?" And we went, "Okay, let's do that then." Do you know what I mean? And when we did, surprise, surprise, they went absolutely wild for it. So yeah, we've the emotional investment of our community, customers, whatever buzzword you want to call them, in 2025 has been such a foundational part of why Gymshark's been successful. The really early days, we'd do these events, and myself, Ben, and whoever was around at the time would just straight up say to customers, "Hey, we're taking all the athletes and influencers and everything down to such and such gym at 7 o'clock." Because we were all like gym goers, we needed somewhere to train, whether we were in Melbourne, Los Angeles, Chicago, wherever. So we'd say, "Oh, we're at such and such gym at 7 o'clock. We're going to get a lift in. Come and hang out if you want." And like, so many of those conversations went into products that we developed, events that we did. Ben only started a YouTube channel, which he's now really well known for, because a kid in Dublin, on Grafton Street, was like, I'm doing business studies. I can't find like the info on how Gymshark really got started anywhere. He was like, "Would you make a YouTube video on it?" And on the plane back, Ben was like, "Yeah, I suppose I could do a little thing about, like, I was delivering pizzas, then I did this and that and blah, blah, blah." And like, now, Jesus Christ, we walk around London and it's ridiculous. Like, every set of eyes you walk past glances at him. Everyone knows him for what he's done and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? But again, it was some lad from Ballymun, Dublin somewhere, saying to Ben, "Can you make me a YouTube video?" And now he's become this like entrepreneurial sensation.
Is that part of your philosophy as well and your strategy for brand? Because this word brand has become a bit of a buzzword in the last few years. Personal brand and company brand and this sort of thing. Is part of that getting the CEO and the founder out there speaking about the journey a lot more so people can really connect with it and resonate with it?
Ish. I think it's definitely contributed. However, a key difference a key step that I see people miss. I see a lot of people do this like building in public thing now, right? And like Monday, They go on company's house and start the company. Tuesday, let me tell you about my founder story. It's about 20 minutes long at that point.
This is LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, Ben didn't do it. No, at most of the early days of Gymshark, and bear in mind that was like the winning UK's fastest growing company, X years on the trot and all that kind of stuff. You'd go to an event and no one knew who he was. Ben would be like steaming clothes and doing boxes out the back and stuff like that. And I remember other people getting mistake. Like one of the guys, Mitch, used to walk around in a shirt just because he liked dressing a bit smarter than us, and everybody thought he was the owner. So no one knew Ben until like 4 or 5 years into the company. Bear in mind, we're already at like the best part of 100 million in revenue by then. Wow. Do you know what I mean? But I think people forget that bit. They assume it's been working like it does now this entire time, and it hasn't. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying there's no value in this whole founder-led brand thing, the personal brand stuff and all that kind of stuff. I just think there's a key differentiation that people miss with Ben spent the first 5 years with his head down in the trenches, late nights, early mornings, packing orders in between, delivering pizzas, all that kind of stuff, which didn't look glamorous. Do you know what I mean? And he's only really been doing the YouTube thing. If you watch his first YouTube video, it's really, really like retrospective, going back and telling you the story of the last few years. So people use him often, Stephen Bartlett, insert entrepreneur here. But I just think people often get that bit mixed up. And if I was to leave tomorrow and go and start Noel's Candles or whatever else, I don't think I'd be doing the building in public thing right away, just because I think, I'm going to quote Alex Hormozy, the path of the exceptional person is one of exception, right? So you have to be doing something different to stand out. And at the minute, 100%. I see a lot of building in public, so I'm like, I think I would probably zig when everybody else was zagging.
Yeah, build something first, and then talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, I think so.
So what was your journey into Gymshark, and what employee number were you?
I'm not sure on employee number. I want to say like 30.
Wow,
30,
okay, so you've
40,
been here since
something
early.
like that, yeah. So I started my own agency, and it's a weird, convoluted story that I won't bore anyone with, but I thought Gymshark was American. Gymshark thought I was American in our first conversation, because I'd been working in LA or somewhere at the time, and we had this weird DM exchange. And then we both come to find out, one day I uploaded like an Instagram story in like my local shopping centre or something, and I get a DM from the Gymshark account, from whoever was running it at the time, saying, oh, are you in the UK? And I'm like, yeah, why? And they were like, so are we. And then like weird thing happens, and we realise that we're like a mile down the road from each other. So we get together. I started doing like client work for them and consulting for them. It went really well. That lasted for like a year, 2 years. And then one day Ben said, how about you come on board at Gymshark and we fold in your agency and what you do into Gymshark? And I said no. And I probably said no 2 or 3 times over the course of about 12 months. And then one day I'm listening to Sheryl Sandberg on a podcast talking about why she stepped out of enterprise tech and into this little startup adventure called Facebook. And she said, I wasn't crazy about the job that Mark was offering me, but I thought to myself, if the rocket ship's taking off, don't worry about your seat, just get on it. And I'm driving along the road and I was like, oh no. I just seen these like record revenue numbers and growth at Gymshark, and I was like, oh, man, is that rocket ship about to take off without me on it? So I rang Ben that day and I said, that offer still standing? He was like, yep. And so that was it. Did a U-turn, drove to the office, and that was it. The rest was history. That was 8 years ago.
Wow, okay.
And when I say drove to the office, I mean like I drove to the David Brent Magnolia Wall. Do you know what I mean? Not the thing that you've arrived at today. Like, it was very, very
which is
different.
a pretty impressive office complex, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But I mean, so you've seen the business completely change in that time. What's been how? I guess the question I'm going to ask here is, how do you go from the original roots of Gymshark, which is where it started then, to then creating this business now, which, like, so much of the change, you've got HR departments now, you've got like huge, you're international and all these sorts of things. Like, how has it changed in that time you've been here?
I mean, yeah, the level of like organisational complexity, as you've sort of alluded to there, it's beyond recognition, like absolutely beyond recognition versus the gym. The first Gymshark I arrived at was in a porter cabin in the car park of the warehouse where we kept all the stock, and all the guys would work in fingerless gloves because there was no heating, so it was freezing in there. Yes, because otherwise their hands would go all cold on their laptops. And
at this point as well, you're like, is this the rocket ship?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I mean. No one said no at the start, right? I wanted warm hands. So yeah, like that has obviously completely unrecognisable. The interesting thing about your question, though, is like, at the core of it, it hasn't changed all that much. What this was, when we take it back to day one, was a 19-year-old kid who wanted cooler stuff to wear in the gym, right? If you ask me right now, you're the chief brand officer, you're in charge of vision and mission and all those things at Gymshark, what's the one thing that you would prioritise above everything else? It would be making the best gym stuff for the 19-year-olds out there. Do you know what I mean? The actual challenge is staying true to that.
Yeah.
How many companies have we seen in recent times go, we're no longer insert whatever they do here, we're no longer an apparel company, we now do connected tech, we're now a holistic experience, we're now an ecosystem, we're world building, we're doing all these things. And then when the tough times came, economically and everything else, everyone reverted back to the mothership and started doing what they did well originally. Do you know what I mean? So it's really weird. You're right. Like it's grown an incredible amount of arms and limbs, and the job is so much different to what it was when I first started it, and blah blah blah. But at its core, it's when we're on our A game, it is the exact same business.
It's interesting as well. You talk about that, like companies who go from apparel into supplements, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Gymshark has a blog online and it talks about supplements, but you're not in the supplement market, for example. So you just say, all we want to do is make clothes that are attractive to 19-year-olds that are going in the gym and lifting weights.
Mm-hmm. I want to make the best gym clothes and I want to convince customers of that. That's it.
And how do you do that?
Well, that's the hard part. but this is what I'm talking about, right? That was such a simple thing, and I've purposely left that weird dead air on purpose, listeners. Your radios aren't messing with you. You obsess over customers. You listen to their feedback like crazy. You put yourself in their world. Do you know what I mean? The whole way this got started, I didn't run until 2 years ago, and you donated to my marathon effort and all that kind of stuff. I did that because I saw how many people will now get into like running, into this thing of becoming the hybrid athlete, all that kind of stuff. So as well as like listening to them, as well as hanging out on Reddit, in the TikTok comments, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever else, I haven't heard that in years.
No.
As well as hanging out in the qual and quant feedback, I'm also a big believer in like living the experience of your customers as best as possible. Do you know what I mean? I've signed up to do High Rocks in October. I've never done a single wall ball. Do you know what I mean? I haven't been to a High Rocks event yet. I've stood outside. But I just think I want to put myself in it so I can understand what's our customer going through right now. Do you know what I mean? Because the 19-year-old has evolved, is our hypothesis, in a little bit in a way, in the fact that the young guy that was bodybuilding when Ben first started doing it, and he was just doing chicken and broccoli and looking in the mirror doing bicep curls, he's now calling himself a hybrid athlete, and he's doing 5Ks, and he goes to a run club and all that kind of stuff. So guess what? I'm going to start running 5Ks and going to a run club and doing that because I want the lived experience. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's I'm not entirely sure how I can distill down that mission I gave you earlier of make the best gym products and then convince customers of that. But I know, like I can't break down every single step, but I know one of the highest leverage tasks on that to-do list is understand the customer like crazy, live like one of the customers, and then you can figure it out from there. Do you know what I mean?
Do you go to the Gymshark run clubs that are in London?
Yeah.
Do you ask people on that run
all
as
the
well?
time.
Do
all
you?
the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Or a disclaimer, right, to anybody I've ever done this to in the gym who thinks I'm a creep. The amount of people I've walked up to in the gym and gone, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Why that sports bra? Do you know what I mean? And people are like, what? And I'm genuinely interested. And so often, right, I'll hear something and then I'll hear our analytics team or our voice of customer team or our research team come out with something that, it's I'm not in any way doing them a disservice. I absolutely think that work needs to be done, but so often it comes back to, and they're saying that they really like ex-rival brand's colour fastness, and I thought, yeah, I heard that 4 weeks ago from Jane, who was doing shoulders that day in the gym, and I rudely interrupted her. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, all the time.
I'm an investor, right. So whenever I'm investing into companies, all I'm doing is all the time I'm looking around. Understanding, of course.
Why do you like them? Why do you work with them? Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. Understanding, what's going on in the economy right now. Anecdotal evidence. I think Jeff Bezos says something like, when the data and the anecdotes disagree,
trust the anecdote.
Trust the anecdotes. And you only understand that from speaking to people, living it, as you say, and actually really understanding, because that then builds your... you have to listen to people, particularly when you're a consumer products brand as well.
100%.
You have to know what they want.
And if you get that bit right, to my thing earlier of there was two parts to what I said, right? Make the best gym product and then convince customers of that. If you figure out what makes the best gym product, you figure out those emotional drivers. When it comes to convincing them, that kind of you've already got a fair understanding anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because you're following the same influencers, the same IG accounts, the same themes are coming up. Do you know what I mean? It's winter arc for the guys. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. It's hot girl walks, all these things that I only know because I follow all those same accounts. So yeah, I just think that I can't break down exactly all the steps, but a super foundational layer is understand the customer and live like a customer, and you'll figure it out.
Are you obsessed with it?
Yeah. Big time. Open my eyes in the morning. One of the first things I do is go on Twitter and search the word Gymshark. Not at Gymshark, just Gymshark. Because
what people are talking about.
Exactly. And the important distinction in not putting the at before, because I don't want to know what they're saying to us. I want to know what they're saying about us. There's a difference. You know when they say, like, it doesn't matter what your friends say about you when you're in the room. It's what they say when you're not in the room that's important. I want to know what they're saying about us when we're not in the room. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, obsessed with it. Like the fire in my eyes when I talk about it is it's daft. I went for dinner the other night with my missus, and we'd had this product launch go crazy. So I was working late, and my team were talking to me, and we can do this, we can do that. We've cancelled these orders. We've figured this out. We've blah 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 whatever. Here's how we're going to attack it tomorrow. And I'm talking to him. So I'm sitting at dinner with my missus, and it's called the Onyx product I'm talking about, OMYX, and it went really well. So the whole dinner, I'm just talking to my missus about Onyx, and I'm going, Onyx this and Onyx that. And then Emily said that the Onyx, and then Callum came over, and then Onyx, and then Onyx. And right at the end, we're literally like finishing our mains. And my missus went, okay, for the last 15 minutes of this dinner, can we not talk about Onyx? And I was like, yeah, sorry, babe. So I turned my phone upside down, because I was answering texts and emails and all sorts. So I was like, how was your day? We start talking. Like, I asked the lady for the bill. The waitress comes over, and she was like, she paid the bill, whatever else. And she was like, I'm so sorry to do this. She said, but my little brother would kill me if I didn't ask, when's Onyx restocking? And I was like, yeah, that is so funny. And like, I think other people would get a little bit annoyed about that. I would have sat her down and talked to her about Onyx for an hour if she'd let me, that girl. Honestly, I'm definitely obsessed with it.
Do you want to pull up a seat?
Let me talk you through the strategy. So yeah, no, I'm definitely obsessed.
What's that feeling like when you've worked so hard on a product launch and then it is successful like that?
Yeah, it's incredibly satisfying. It makes everything about what you do just better. I'm trying to be more eloquent there. It didn't work. Have you heard that? But you heard that term Ikigai?
No, I haven't.
Or read the book Ikigai?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to try and do the fastest breakdown of that ever. I learned this from Ross Edgley. Ross Edgley famously swum around the UK. He's done a million of these crazy things, and people always ask him, how do you do it? And he says it's because it's my Ikigai. It came from... Ikigai is a Japanese word, you know, blue zones where they've
I love
really long
this.
life.
Yeah.
So Okinawa in Japan, like more centenarians, however you say it, more people over the age of 100 in the world than anywhere else per capita, right? So they go there and they do this study, and this word keeps coming up: Ikigai, 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 Ikigai. And your Ikigai is something in Japanese culture which is like, you have to find your Ikigai, you need something that you're good at, something that the world needs, something that you can be paid for, and something that you love, right? And if you can find something in the intersection of those four Venn diagrams, something the world needs, something you can be paid for, something you love, something you're good at, that's your Ikigai. You can do that every day, right? And it's why they also don't have a word for retirement, because if you can find that thing, why would you ever stop doing it? Do you know what I mean? Because you love it, you're good at it, the world needs it, and you love doing it. Do you know what I mean? So when you get to 55, 60, why would you stop? I love this and I'm being paid for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think in the days where it goes well, like that, every job has bad days. Every single job. If you're a candy taster, if you're do you know what I mean? A Tom Cruise, I don't know, private security, and you need to hang out with him in private jets. There's going to be bad parts of your day. But on the days when you put the strategy in place like that, it goes well. I'm there thinking this could not be more my Ikigai. I love doing this so much. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose maybe the reason it feels so good there is because the fact it works is the validation that you're good at it as well. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like if you haven't, like, look up that book. It's an incredible book, and they in their culture they put it down to why they live so long. They were like, because if I'm the guy who does the potatoes for the whole village and I don't wake up tomorrow, nobody gets potatoes, right? We've all heard that story where grandma and grandpa are 93 and 95 and are seemingly going to live forever, and then we lose grandma, and 3 months later grandpa goes as well because he doesn't have a reason to get up anymore. Do you know what I mean? But his thing became looking after her, and that was his purpose. Do you know what I mean?
What is your purpose?
I don't know.
Not figured it out?
No, not really. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not. I never wanted to be a chief brand officer. I didn't write chief brand officer on my... careers thing at high school. Do you know what I mean? And any of that stuff. I think I've just sort of I've really relentlessly followed my passion. Whatever I was passionate about at the time, I just did that. And I was ignorant enough to think I could like sort of make it on my own, quote unquote. Do you know what I mean? Thankfully for me, it worked out. But no, I haven't really nailed down what my purpose is. There's a weird thing where when you're working your way up like an org chart or up the stereotypical quote unquote career path, right? The next step is always really obvious for you because you have a boss, there's a job above you, all that kind of stuff. And I think most people just use that as a proxy for what their purpose is. Well, I'm just chasing a promotion or whatever else. Ben's my line manager. I don't want to be the CEO of Gymshark, right? I've never aspired to do that. That I know a lot of people have CEO as their thing. They want to be able to say that in their Instagram bio and their LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. It's always been a little bit of a mystery, that to me. So I've always looked at that job and thought, I don't think I'd love that. So I think that the thing that I find myself closely identifying with now is, and I'm not sure this is purpose, but you've read the stories like the PayPal Mafia, right, and all the things they've gone on to do, right? I want to create incredible chief brand officers, chief marketing officers in my wake. Do you know what I mean? I want the guys that I worked with to go on to do incredible things, and I want to hear lines in the TED talk that they give that they learned from me and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think that would be really, really cool. So it's less about me now. It's more about trying to like legacy. Do you know what I mean? And lineage, I should say, lineage of those guys. One of the guys that used to work really closely with me, Elf, is like a ex-head of social here. He's like a prolific LinkedIn guy now, and I see him doing some really incredible things. And to think that I had in any way a part of that, I think is really, really cool. So that's kind of my current thing.
Well, you're in the right place because this is the Ambitious Minds podcast, and hopefully, I think my intention is to try to inspire people on their own journey, even if they are not on the path they want to be on now, giving them the confidence to change paths. But you've changed paths though as well, haven't you? Because you were the founder of your own marketing agency, and then you went in-house at Gymshark. What were your ambitions when you were younger, growing up?
My ambitions when I was younger, policeman.
Really?
Yeah, because my dad was a policeman, and he would come home with the coolest stories. And do you know what I mean? And then I chased him over a fence, and he got away. But then we got the dog to get him, and I was like, oh my god, my dad's Superman. I want to do that. And then he very quickly persuaded me that wasn't a good idea. And then it was like music. I was a decent musician, and I wasn't good. I was just okay. Like I could play a few different instruments. I'm one of the people, I know enough to make myself look good if you and me walk past the piano. But much more than that, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm out of my depth now. But it all does lead on where I was in music, and then when I was in that, I got really, really invested in the marketing side of the music industry because I thought it was really interesting. Had a couple of projects that did well. Then used the money that I made from that to start this agency, and I had this theory about the Arctic Monkeys had just blown up at the time, right? And I had this theory about, oh man, they'd grown this massive fan base on MySpace, right? And they were like, they used that to then get signed and blah blah blah. And it was like this new hacky way of getting to the top. And this idea of like building communities on social media, I thought like, wow, but I think businesses could use that as well. Do you know what I mean? I think everybody could use that. This is the new world. So that was the kind of the hypothesis that the agency was born on, and then met the guys from Gymshark, and then it led to that. Do you know what I mean?
Were they a client to begin with?
Yeah, client, yeah. I remember the first brief that Ben ever sent me was the funniest thing in the world. It was like I asked for a brief of what they wanted, and he sent me like a Word document with like a picture of the London Eye and some random London landmarks on. I was like, what is this? And he was like, I just want some photos of our stuff. Yeah, this stuff. Like, it was so funny. I remember one of the guys at the time from the agency going to me, why are we doing this project and all? These guys have got no budget and no idea what they want. And I was like, I just like them. I just think they're cool. And that was it. And yeah, it went from there. But so I have, if you look at it from like a LinkedIn point of view, I have changed path, right? Which is like musician and then agency owner, but I never ever look at it like that. Those are like the random boxes that other people force you into. I've just been following my passion, which if I go back to what I said right at the start, is about like evoking emotion. Do you know what I mean? The thing that I liked about when I remember one of my early lecturers saying to me when we were doing, it was again marketing in the music industry. He said to me, "Noel, if you think Adele's image is any less considered than Britney Spears, you've got another thing coming." He said some strategist sat in a room and said she's going to be the every woman, she's going to be the real woman, she's going to be a little bit more attainable because they're fed up with these manufactured pop stars, and that blew my mind. Right, the fact that somebody designed that as like a brand experience, that captivated my imagination. So, like I've followed my passion and found things that I loved, and then where I found something I really loved and somebody seemed to think I was good at it, I just did more of that and then more of that, and that's just led me to where I sit now. Do you know what I mean? And I've been given different labels for doing that job, but like I said earlier, evoking emotion is the thing that I think I've done in my job, and since the start of my career, really.
Do you see yourself as a C-level exec at a very, very well-known, huge company in the UK?
No, only... Even you saying that makes me feel so uncomfortable.
This is really interesting though, to understand like the mindset behind it, and to understand like that level of randomness, but also humility. I think that you, and I think from what I understand about Ben as well, he's very similar, very, very humble guy, and to just be doing something that you love doing, irrespective of the title. It's not like a power trip. It's not like, oh, look at me. You don't seem like you're I don't know what's the word I'm trying to find here. Like, you're not singing from the mountaintops. Like, I'm the CBO of Gymshark.
Do you know what? It's why I turn down like 95% of podcasts. And this is I'm not casting any aspersions on podcasters or anybody who goes on podcasts. But what I don't like is, I've listened to myself back on podcasts at times, and I don't like this idea that people are preaching and being like, here is the top 3 ways for you to do X, or this is the way to grow brands in 2025. There's a million different ways to grow brands in 2025. The way we did it is completely separate to what the next Ben Francis might do, or the next Gymshark might do, or whoever. And there's been times where I've given disclaimers to be like, can I just say I'm not preaching? This is how we did it. It might never work again. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm any smarter than you. Do you know what I mean? This is just what worked for us and what continues to work for us. So... yeah, no, I don't identify with it. There was there's times where you have to be that person, right, literally, to get things done. But yeah, in the same, it's like me saying to you, like, how old actually are you?
I'm 34.
Right, do you feel 34?
No.
How old do you feel?
Younger.
Ish, give me a number.
30. I always confuse myself being a 30-year-old.
Yeah, I'm similar, right? So that's my closest analogy I can give you. Do you know what I mean? I don't go, what's your job title? The chief brand officer of Gymshark. Do you feel like the chief brand officer of Gymshark? No. I feel like the same ambitious, emotion-evoking kid I was when I embarked on this journey in the first place. Do you know what I mean? The only difference is now people listen to me. And I don't have to convince them to do stuff.
Isn't that funny that, like, now, because of your job title, you have a higher level of respect from the outside?
It's I'm going to quote Hormozy again. What is it? It's he says something like, confidence is built up in layers of paint, that you are who you say you are, right? Yeah. There's a difference. When I was saying to people, trust me, I'm good at this stuff, this social media thing, this creative thing, like I'm in tune with Gen Z. They're like, yeah, well, have you done anything? No. Well, shut up then. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit different now because I have a CV and I have experience to prove it. So I don't think it's a massive mystery why people listen now. But I do think it's a dangerous thing when people do start identifying with the job title. Because I think you should identify with the work, not the job title. Do you know what I mean? Mate, I can't tell you how embarrassed I got. Forbes, I love Forbes. They're such nice people. They're like friends personally. I know some of them. And they put me on this list of like the most, some sort of adjective, the most something CMOs list. And it was like inspirational or entrepreneurial or something like that, right? And like, I know so many people would like really die to be on one of these like Forbes lists. Man, I wanted to eat myself alive. I felt so awkward about it. So I posted it on, because my thing with that is, they're thanking me for the work. Like, there's 200 something people in my team. Do you know what I mean? Why is Noel Mack the whatever Forbes CMO? So I also felt weird not posting about it, because it is something you should be proud of, and I didn't want to be disrespectful to the guys at Forbes, be the only person on the list who didn't say anything anywhere. So when I posted it, I got headshots of all my direct reports. I put the article on Instagram, and I was like, made it to the Forbes list, or made it to a Forbes list, I should say, not the, definitely not on the, made it to a Forbes list, and then I put all my guys in the thing, and I said, But realistically, I just signed off the annual leave and approved the POs. These are the guys that did the work, right, and put the guys in afterwards. Not because I'm playing the whole, oh, it wasn't me, it was the team humble card. Because I genuinely felt horrendously awkward about it. Do you know what I mean? I really did. Like I said earlier as well, the list said CMOs. I'm not a CMO, I'm a chief brand officer. Carly does some of that work as well. Do you know what I mean? So like, I hated the idea that they were directing it at me and going, well done you. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. So yeah, you're right about Ben as well, 100%. The amount of times where I remember we were going up to Manchester for our lift event, right, which was this like huge event. Blah blah blah. Me and him lived near each other at the time, and the athletes were coming in and they fly in on fancy flights and whatever and stay in nice hotels, and me and him jumped on the local train into Birmingham New Street and then the train from New Street up to Manchester. And I remember these kids walking on the train like head to toe in Gymshark, like, obviously coming up to the event, seeing Ben with his M&S sandwich and his Percy Pig sitting in like the cheap seats and being like, Ben, like that, and him being like, yeah. And I watched this hilarious interaction where they thought he would be like chauffeured up there in a Viano or something like that, and it's just not how it works. So yeah, it's definitely a reason I think why me and him have had a successful quote unquote relationship for a while, because we are built on similar values like that. Do you know what I mean? No one believes anyone's hype. If anything, we spend most of our time taking chunks out of each other and trying to.
But I was chatting to Lauren as well on the walk up here. And she was saying that in between your old EA and then her joining, she broke her elbow, so she had to delay her start.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, he must have been super busy. He definitely wasn't running a marathon then and sort of posting on LinkedIn about donations and stuff. And she's like, yeah, but he does it as well. Like he's a very tech savvy guy, and he also just rolls his sleeves up and does it.
That's nice of her. I think that like. That's a big part of working at Gymshark. It's not just my role; it's any role. Like my C-suite colleagues I've seen be successful here. I've had some of them start and go, oh, wow, like I'm doing things now that I haven't done for 15 years. In my last role as a CFO, do you know what I mean? Or my last role as a whatever it was, like I haven't done this for a very long time. And here you do have to roll your sleeves up and get stuck in. There's an inherent thing at Gymshark about hard work. Like this thing was built on hard work in the first place. We're from Birmingham, right? City of 1,000 trades. Like it's a very, very working class place. Most people around here's lineage you can trace back to like the Land Rover factory or Jaguar or Rover or whatever. And everyone's dad, granddad, uncle, cousin, whatever else was on the line doing, you know what I mean, real work. The BSA factory, seeing Peaky Blinders, all the women that were working there for the war effort. Like this is a very, very working class city. And I think there's a lot of that in us anyway here. And then when people come in from the outside, like I said, you might come from London in some fancy C-suite job and come and join here and go, oh damn, they actually graft up here. Do you know what I mean? So you do have to kind of get on with it. There's no pomp and circumstance. Like we like to get stuck in.
Was that also a deliberate move when you decide? I don't know if it's a decision, but like you're still based around Birmingham. Mm-hmm. You know, the headquarters here, still true to your roots. Yeah. It's not like, oh, let's go down to London and get this big fancy head office or whatever. You're all here in Birmingham. Yeah. Employing people, I'm guessing, from Birmingham too.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was a conscious decision. I'd say if anything, it was more subconscious that there just wasn't an option to move to London. I didn't like. I don't know. We didn't see any advantage to it. Like we've been doing all right from here. Do you know what I mean? So it's like let's just stay. Now we do have there are some operational complexities. Like the talent wise, you couldn't always get talent who wanted to like move up to Birmingham, and we like to be like in real life and have presence in the office. So we do have Great Marlborough Street in London. We've got like a satellite office down there. Similarly, we've got a satellite office in Manhattan as well. So we're still in these places, right? Like our Manhattan office is like wildly cool. Like it's like we're right in the middle of Soho, like in the heart of it on Prince and Green. And like that was always, I remember me and Ben walking around New York when we were like years and years ago, when it was way smaller than it is now, being like, could you imagine having an office here one day? So then I remember the day when I walked in and it was our office for the first time. I remember saying to him, like, we talked about this, about 6 years ago, and it was like we're mind blown by the fact that it could happen one day, and here we are. So yeah, we didn't go, right guys, decision time, from or London. It worked. We kept doing what worked, and here we are now. We've got this big campus. Yeah.
What was the decision to move away from the e-commerce side of things and actually create physical stores as well? Because you've got one in America now, in New York.
Coming in America.
Yeah,
it's not there yet. It's
one in London.
Yeah. No, 3 in London.
3 in London now.
White City.
Okay. Yeah.
Stratford. Yeah. And Regent Street as well.
Yeah. I've seen the Regent Street one.
And we've got Bicester. So we're in Bicester now as well. That's another there's another very Gymshark anecdote that. So we'd Mitch, who's a guy who was in my team at the time, had this idea about he was like running events, and we'd done some like pop-up stores. We do like what we call a pop-up. We don't even really call them pop-ups anymore. We do these like massive blowout 48 hours expo centers. The last one in Miami had like 10,000 people there. It was nuts, right? It's like it's more of an expo now. And we'd done a pop-up in Covent Garden, which we'd put on for like 3 months. And Mitch was like toying with the idea of, could we open our first store, our first permanent retail store? So we put this little presentation together to set the rest of the chiefs through. And Mitch, like anybody would, said, right, we'll start with a little 2,000 square foot box, maybe in Shoreditch. We'll test and learn. We'll see how it goes. Then we'll go up to this. If that works out after 2 months, and it's EBITDA accretive and all the things that you would do. And then hopefully one day we could work towards having a flagship store. Ben is a big Warren Buffett fan. Be brave when others are scared. Be scared when others are brave. Buy the blood when it's in the streets. All that kind of stuff. We both definitely pray at the Church of Charlie Munger and
we've got something definitely in common there. Then.
Yeah. And when COVID happened and everyone was bailing on their leases, do you remember this narrative? Everyone was saying this. Everyone was saying, e-commerce adoption has just leapt forward 10 years. We just shot forward in time, right? E-commerce done this and it's going to continue. And a problem that so many e-com brands face, ourselves included, was they then tried to comp that revenue going forwards. And as we all know now, after the fact, what happened was the opposite, right? It fell off and people wanted to revert back. Maybe it was the Buffettisms and the Mungerisms that triggered this, but I'll get a text from Ben one day saying, as we were proposing this, it was during COVID, and we're proposing this 2,000 square foot test and learn thing. He says, do me a favour. And he always does this. And you just write the favour in the first text, right? But he doesn't, do me a favour. And I go back, yeah. And I'm expecting, when someone says do me a favour, I'm expecting like, can you lend me some sugar? Do you know what I mean? Or can you pick me up for work? Whatever. Skip the test and learn. Let's go straight for flagship, right? So I rang him and was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, everyone's bailing on their leases we're hearing. Everyone's talking about it's the death of the high street, death of bricks and mortar, e-com this, e-com that. He was like, can't be true. There's never going to be a cheaper time for us to, do a bit of a land grab and try and invest now and ride that wave up. Buy the dip, blah, 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 all the crypto stuff that you hear. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I rang Mitch and I was like, Mitch, we're on. We're going for flagship. Let's do it. So we start looking around. We see what is now our store on Regent Street, and we have this mission, right, of becoming like an iconic British brand, hopefully the most iconic British brand, right? We want people to think about us in the same way they think about Jaguar Land Rover, or maybe I should separate those now, the way they think about Jaguar, the way they think about Land Rover, the way they think about Burberry, do you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. So when me and Mitch went and looked at that store for the first time, it was a J. Crew store, and unfortunately due to COVID, they'd had to, get out of the lease and all that stuff. And I stood on the corner, if you've been to our store, you know where I mean, that corner right there. And I looked down Regent Street, which obviously is just the most quintessentially British street in this country, and the arch and that kind of stuff. And I said to Mitch, I said, if I bring Ben back here, stand him on this spot and whisper in his ear, iconic British brand, I'm going to get him, I'm telling you. So we go and show him around the store. We go to that place, and he stood on the corner. I said to him, mate, if we're going to become the most iconic British brand, there's only one place for us to be. And I think that sealed the deal. So yeah, that was it. And we went from trading an e-com business, which anybody who does it, it's very, very different to being a bricks and mortar retailer, like loads of things that you would never think of. And we dive straight in at the deep end with a 15,000 square foot flagship. But that store has done incredible stuff for us. And again, it's pretty iconic, right? Regent Street is for the most iconic brands of our generation: Apple, Burberry, the BBC. Do you know what I mean? Like Hamleys, all that kind of stuff. And now it's home to Gymshark, right? The bedroom ambition of a Brummie pizza boy.
I'm actually getting goosebumps listening to this now, because we need to support more British brands as well. I think at the moment there is a bit of people are sort of treading down on these British brands, or they're being bought from American companies, for example. And it's actually really refreshing to hear somebody talk about this, where that is one of your values. We want to be a British brand.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you said that about the hairs on the back of your arm standing up, because think about what I said right at the beginning when you said what was your purpose, and I said since the start of my career I've been trying to evoke emotion. I think I fucking nailed the brief.
Is that literally like your job description as a chief brand officer? And is it all about that emotive part and that sort of building How do people feel when they see this?
Sort of. I don't have a JD, I'll be honest with you. I'll have to ask my line manager for one. That is unofficially how I've shaped it, though. I always thought I've like pieced bits together as I've gone along, and as I've seen other departments come up for grabs, I thought I could help shape that. I've gone, I could look after that. Do you know what I mean? Done it. And again, like I said earlier, I've never gone, let me bolt on the paid media team because that makes me feel like more of a CMO, because I don't think I had a ton of value to that team. Do you know what I mean? I love what they do, and I think it's so smart. In fact, I think it's that smart I'm unable to do it because I'm too thick for that. But yeah, so I've kind of, it's been kind of self-built over like an 8 or 9 year career here, I think. But like Ben described it as a while ago to me as like, you said you're the gut feeling of the brand. He was like, that's what I think you are. I said that's what I turn to and ask you for when I need it. Do you know what I mean? And it's interesting. I was never into the gym before this. I was one of those ones that like you turn up at a gym and a squat rack is incredibly intimidating to me. Right, my first foray into lifting has all been at Gymshark. Gymshark's taught me about this stuff. So it's not like I didn't grow up in it and became instinctive to me. I had to figure it out and immerse myself in it.
And now you're here in a tank top.
And, oh no! I can't believe you mentioned that. A Judas. Absolute Judas. It's really hot in this podcast. So it's interesting that Ben, who did grow up in that culture, and he was the kid walking around holding onto his protein shake in school and all that kind of stuff, refers to me as the gut feeling because he's more, deserving of that. So she's been in it for longer. But I just learn the industry inside out and backwards because I felt like I had to be able to do this job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to go back to the sort of the mindset part now as well, because you said earlier on about being obsessed with what you do. And I try to understand as well, like what makes people tick, what makes people ambitious and develop and stuff like that. What is it for you? What motivates you?
Good question. I'm not sure what it is now. I'm not entirely sure what it is that motivates me now. I think now my ambition's driven from like more generic seeing progress, helping the company win, helping, like I said earlier, like team members develop and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's like that. Definitely what sowed the seeds of my ambition for sure was like hearing about the efforts of, I'm from a very like Irish background, right? Like dad's family are all Dublin, mum's family are all Cork, and hearing the stories of like your granddad got on a boat because he heard there's work in Birmingham. And I was like, what? I was like, so he didn't have a job? No, he heard there's work in Birmingham, turn up and figure it out. Do you know what I mean? And my granddad proudly tells me the story that before his head hit the pillow for his first night's sleep in Birmingham, he'd found a job. And when you hear about that, and then I saw my dad's then work ethic based on what he'd learned from his dad and so on and so forth, and like the women in my family who like held down these like idiot blokes, I just think like, I don't know. It's to put it in terms that I'm not being facetious here. To put it in terms that will definitely resonate with you. It feels like compound interest, right?
Yeah.
Like, Granddad took the first step that was go to another country where there's more opportunity. Then Dad got like a job where no one was, chastising him about his accent, and there was no Irish need not apply signs or anything like that, and he made good on that. And like my dad worked all the overtime God sent, and he would always explain the economics of it to me and break it down when I was a kid. Like, I'm not going to be here Christmas Day, but the reason I'm not is because nobody wants to work Christmas Day, so the demand for the work goes up, so then I get double time. And he would like break that down. He would literally break the economics down to me. What he was doing at the time was trying to justify to his son why he wasn't going to be around Christmas Day. But what I heard was, okay, so if you're willing to work when others aren't, you can get more than they. Do you know what I mean? It's weird the way that played out. And then I think that instilled like a work ethic in me, and like a value system where I derive a lot of my worth from how hard I'm working or how hard I see others work or whatever else. So I think that was what sort of sowed the seeds of being ambitious in general. And then I think it changes over time. You have to keep finding ways to remain ambitious, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because there is certain stuff that comes along that satiates that a little bit, to go, well, you got a very fancy job title now, do you know what I mean? Or the first time you turn around and help one of your family members with a financial thing or whatever it might be. So like I said, I then derive ambition from slightly different means, like at this point. But yeah, that was definitely what kicked it all off.
Are you somebody, because what you were saying there sounds a little bit like the way my mind works, which is always trying to constantly improve and do more. And that's actually a bit of a detriment of mine, actually, is I try to do more, almost too much. Like I've got a very busy full-time job and doing a podcast and all these different things. I'm always ambitious trying to do more stuff. Are you similar to that? Are you always trying to do more, or spending your time just trying to constantly develop and improve?
My gut reaction, muscle memory response to that was to instantly go, no, I don't think I am. However, I can't deny the evidence that, like, my previous EA, Stacey, said to me, she was like, you sign up for way too much stuff. I remember, like, there was this thing where there was, I can't remember what it was now, it was like a board pack that was going out that I had to contribute to, and it was like the same night that I was meant to be carb loading for a half marathon, and she was like, and which was in like Abersock, and I had to drive like 5 hours to get up there, or I'd said to someone that I'd do nothing. And a lot of people, Lauren says the same thing now. I said to my missus the other day, I'm doing High Rocks in October, and she was like, not this again, because I've just come off the marathon training, right? And I said to her, I was like, yeah, babe, don't worry. Like, I'm not trying to get like a certain time or anything. I'm literally doing it because I want to understand more about High Rocks. And she was like, absolute bullshit. She was like, you're saying that now because October's not on us. She was like, October's going to roll around. You're going to have everybody's like times out, figuring out what they got and what you're going to get and trying to push for it. And she's so right. She nailed me. So I think that's in my blind spot. I think I don't do too much, but probably like you, right? This is why you sign up for too much.
It is exactly the same.
Others around you go, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like there's guys here I work with who do even more than me on that front, and I point it out in them. So yeah, I probably am. It's probably just sitting in my blind spot that I don't think I am.
Yeah, my girlfriend's very good at this, telling me when I'm doing too much, overcommitting. I'm the sort of person who just like, if I'm going to see my family who live outside of London in a day, I'll try and squeeze in like a gym session in the morning before I go there, and she's just like, no, like, why are you doing that? You're just putting too much stress on yourself.
Why do you think you do that though?
Why do I think I do it?
There's got to be a reason, right?
Yeah, it's a natural instinct for me. I can't sit still, ever.
Okay, here you go. Do you bite your nails?
No.
You don't? How are you in the cinema?
I fall asleep.
How are you in the bath?
I've not had one in a while.
Yeah, so mate, exactly the same. Cinema, can't do it, because like I go and I'm like, I used to bite my nails like crazy. I can't now because I've put some stuff like bonding stuff on my teeth and it'll crack. I used to bite my nails like crazy. My missus was constantly leaning over and doing that and grabbing my hands to stop me.
Actually, I'm doing this all the time. I'm playing with my beard.
Yeah. And then same with the bath. I get in the bath, it winds me up, and I get out after like 5 minutes. And I properly go for it as well. Like I get all the candles out, Paolo Nutini on. Do you know what I mean? I'll get it. I get the vibes immaculate. I get in and I'm like, what? So I'm meant to just sit here? And then I just get out and get annoyed. I think high functioning, someone once called me. I think that was a nice way of saying like,
that's a great word though.
Yeah, it made me feel better about it.
You should stick that in your LinkedIn bio.
High functioning chief brand officer.
Are you high functioning and also productive?
No, I think you can. Sometimes, yeah, like there'll be times where I'm like locked in and I get loads of work done and I'll do a 12-hour work day and absolutely smash it out the park. But equally, like there was a time a while ago where my missus went out for the day and left me, and I just had a completely free day. And when she got back, I'd bought DJ decks and what was the other thing? There was something else mental that even afterwards, when she got back, I went, what? Like, how long have I been gone for? I thought, yeah, this is weird now you mention it. There was something else, I can't remember what it was, but you know, like I just like made myself busy. And all my friends are DJs, and I thought, oh, what the hell? Why have I never learnt to DJ? So I went and bought some decks and yes. So I think if you apply that strength, the right stuff, then it's great, right? And you can fly through your to-do list and get those done and be a catalyst for change and whatever else. But yeah, on a Sunday, left alone with Amazon, do you know what I mean? Like, it can be all over the shop.
And do you get done by the Instagram ads as well? Impulse purchase?
Not really, no, I don't. I think maybe because I know how sausage is made. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so in that, I don't really go in for Instagram ads or random econ brands or whatever else. I tend to, do you know what I mean? I feel like Neo with Instagram ads. I can see the code, so I don't tend to go in for that.
I'm conscious that we're actually running out of time now, but I guess last question before we finish up. What are your personal ambitions? Are you the sort of person who has a 5-year plan?
I think, I definitely know where I want to end up, right? I always say this to my team because it's something that people don't. I think people get really good at looking at the next step, right? And again, I think that comes from, I think societally we force people to do that because we tell them school, college, uni, job, married, baby, blah, 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 blah. So the next step becomes really obvious. I always say to my team, when they're inquiring about what I think their next step should be, I always say to them, what job do you want to retire from? What position do you want to be in when you retire, right? And you always see them, it hits them like I hadn't really thought about it. I'm like, right, okay, so how the hell can I help you with what the next step is then? If I said to you, tomorrow morning when I leave my house, I'm going to drive to the end of my road, should I turn left or right? You'd ask me, where are you going? Where are you trying to get to? Because then I can tell you left or right. But if I don't know where you're going, do you know what I mean? So I think that I have a bit of a high-low strategy, as in, I know what I want my life to look like and what I want to have achieved when I get to the end of it, right? And I know where I am right now, so I can use that. I can figure out that delta and what the next step probably should be. But I don't obsess over, right, next year I need this to look like that. I need to have done that. I need to make sure that I've delivered this project and that, and I want my salary to look like X or any of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because I think direction is so much more important than speed. Do you know what I mean? So people tend to put like speed KPIs on it, whereas like I know directionally I'm doing exactly what, again, Ikigai. I know exactly what I love to do. I know I'm good at, blah, 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 and I'm following that, and I have an idea of where I'll get to. But
what is that?
I'm agnostic on progress.
What is that? What is the end goal?
Some of that's personal. I don't know how much I can reveal on the podcast. I mean, I'd great question. I think, okay, I'm going to distill it down to 2 words, right? I think something I harp on about a lot is making stuff brick to head, making it easy to understand. This is why our tagline is "We do gym," right? It's quite simple. I want to be happy and respected, I think.
Interesting.
So I think happy for obvious reasons. Everybody should aspire to that, and I don't think enough people spend enough time thinking about how they can be happy. And then respected, I think, is one that, like, who wouldn't want to say, yeah, he's a great dad? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I really respect how he is as a husband. I really respect how he is in business. And all that kind of stuff. I think if I'm looking back on my life as an old man and I'm like, damn, I've been so happy for all these years, and people respect what I've done while I've been here. Do you know what I mean? It might seem quite generic, but I think there's beauty in that simplicity.
But that also will help you along the way and guide you, because not only is it going to help you get to the destination, but then when you are there, because you spoke about retirement earlier on, and maybe you will retire, maybe you'll just continue doing what you're doing, but at the point at which you're respected, you might then be helping the next generation, and it becomes easy to do, almost like a mentor or a consultant or whatever in your field, and you can just help people that way and work with people that way.
100%. That marathon thing, like, the whole point of doing that, like, that was such a symbiotic situation. I got to challenge myself and prove to myself that I could run the marathon and blah, blah, blah. I got to tap into my like LinkedIn following for donations, and the downshot was we broke a record for the marathon record for money donated to the hospital or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, that thing made me so happy, and in such a different way to the way that like you said earlier, a fancy job title makes you happy, or do you know what I mean, makes you feel respected or whatever else. Like, 3 days before it, I tore my calf and I couldn't walk. So, and the fact that I got on the start line and did it and raised the money and all that kind of stuff, like, it gave me a whole nother angle of respect from people, and it gave me a whole nother version of happiness that I could tap into. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, the more of those I can do by the time I die, and do you know what I mean, I'll be trying to max that out as much as I can.
Did you run it with a torn calf?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was, you know what's weird? I did this shakeout run. Again, somebody else donated and said, somebody gave me $2,500 and said, if you host a shakeout run the day before, we'll give you $2,500. I was like, I'll definitely do that. But then it came around and I was genuinely nervous about running 5K the night before, because I thought, I don't know if my calf will hold up for 5K. I went and did it. Thankfully it did. But one of the lads on the run from Rad Footwear, big shout out to this guy, don't know his name, but he was running along next to me. He went to me, how you feeling? And I was like, mate, I said, I'm worried I'm not going to finish this 5K, never mind the marathon in 2 days' time. And he was like, what happened? I said, I tore my calf. And he said, that happened to me ahead of Berlin. And I was like, really? He said, man, when you get on the start line, he said, like, your adrenaline will dump. He said, you'll forget you've even injured your leg, and it'll carry you through. He was like, I don't know how long it'll last, but it'll work. And that guy was so right. I got to 27K before I sort of remembered,
no way,
oh, damn, my calf's really hurting. Do you know what I mean? So then it was probably painful until 30K. 30K locked up. So I'm like, there's my one mate surprised me and came down to see me, and he did a video of me going past him, and you can see that I'm like, my right leg, I'm like dragging it around next to me rather than running in like a, you know, like aerodynamically. And And then when I came around the corner and saw Big Ben, Houses of Parliament, all that kind of stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm nearly there now. I remember thinking like, oh, forget my leg. And I just started running normally. It was still hurting loads, of course. And I finished in like 3:47 or something like that, which was on with the torn calf and the heat that we had on the day. Like, I'll take that for sure. But the thing that annoyed me about it now, to your point earlier of do you do too much, 5 a.m. the next morning I signed up for next year.
No
as well.
way.
Yeah, because I'm like, I know I could have run 3:20 that day. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know how much money. I don't know if I'll even raise money next time. But yeah, I'll definitely do it again.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Top man, Joe.
Cheers, mate.